Hi there, Sandy here. Welcome to another polymer clay jewelry video at keepsakecrafts.net. Today's video is part 2 in a series, so be sure to click on the link in the description box or up in the upper right if you've missed part 1. In part 1, I showed you how to make 2 of the polymer clay beads, the faux ceramic and the textured one for this bracelet, and today I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to string it all together. I'll also be showing you how to make the clasp for this, and it's really quite simple, and it's a variation on a clasp we've made before, and all you need is some wire. I have here 16 gauge copper wire, and just a 4-inch piece is all you need. And since you're using 16 gauge, you want to be sure you have your nice heavy duty flush cutters to trim it, and you want to cut one end flush like I've done here. And then you also want to take a file and just kind of turn it and flatten it out, because we're going to hammer this a little bit, and any variations, imperfections, unevenness will be amplified as we hammer it. So just file it a little bit. And then I have a bench block here along with a sandbag, and the sandbag just helps dampen the sound. And I'm just going to hammer with my chasing hammer the end, like 1/4 to 1/8 inch is all. And the reason I'm doing this is so that I'll have a bit more graceful shape. You'll see what I mean in a moment. And again, that may need to be just filed down smooth. And then for doing the shaping, I have these pliers, which are like a half round nose and a half chain nose, and I found them to be really useful. And what I'm going to do is curl this into a very small spiral. And you notice it slipped off, and that's actually okay if it does that, because that is going to thin down the wire a little bit more there. And that's kind of what I want. And once I've got it thinned down a little bit more, I'm going to grab it a little further up so it doesn't keep slipping off. And just make a very small loop. So once that bit of wire is touching itself again, I'm going to grab flat nose pliers, and I'm going to grab it way down here, not up at the tips, but way down here you have more leverage. And I'm just going to bend that wire and start making a spiral. And I want to have this a little bit open. It's just kind of pretty and graceful, but you could make it however you want. And once you have your nice open spiral made, go ahead and grab your bail making pliers. These have a 5, 7, and 10 millimeter mandrel. I'm going to use the 10 millimeter one. I'm going to put my loop on the outside facing away from the mandrel, and then just wrap the wire around. And keep going beyond, a little beyond where you want it to go. And then I'm going to kind of use my finger and stroke and bend it back, and that just gives it a really nice shape. And then I had you cut the wire a little longer than you'd need, because I'd rather have a little extra to cut off. If I was using something expensive, I'd be a little bit more precise about it. But you probably end up cutting off about a 1/2 inch. You want to cut it with the flush side towards the part you're keeping, and cut it about level with the bottom of this spiral that you just made. And again, file that, and then you might have to open it kind of out of the way a little. Bring back in your chasing hammer and go ahead and hammer that flat like we did before. And again, I'll give it a bit of a file just to smooth things out. Again, grab it with these pliers, and you can see it kind of thins it. I like that. And then give it just a curl. And this wire is quite hardened from the work we've already done on it, which is a good thing. It means your hook clasp is going to be nice and strong. See, what I like about flattening that is you just get a little bit thinner edge, and it's a little more graceful. And there's your clasp all done, and you can leave it like that if you want. Or what I did with mine was I used the rounded end of the chasing hammer and did some light texturing, you'll find that it isn't going to take a real deep texture at this point because the wire, like I keep saying, is quite hardened at this point. So you can leave it round or textured, and then you can either create a loop, or I happen to find this loop in my stash, which is just perfect for that to go around. But you can make one out of wire if you want. And now it's time to assemble our bracelet. Now if you like, you can use bead stringing wire and crimps and crimp covers. I just wasn't in the mood for dealing with all that, and I decided to use wax linen twine, which I just love the look of. It really kind of adds to the earthy vibe that I was going for with this, and it's really easy to use. One thing you're going to need to do if you're going to use wax linen twine with these polymer clay beads is you'll need to use a drill bit and just drill out the holes and make them a little bit bigger so that they'll accept 2 lengths of the wax linen twine. And I've already done that with all of my polymer clay beads. And I also double checked. I had to change out these pearls here to make sure that they would accept. They just need to accept 1 thickness of the wax linen twine. And then I've cut 2 lengths. One's about 24 inches and one's about 14. Take the longer piece and fold it in half. And then tuck the loop into your hook, right into that spiral where we started. And then the 2 ends go through the loop. This is called a lark's head knot. I don't know why. It doesn't look anything like a lark's head to me, but what do I know? So that's just how we're going to fasten that to there. Very simple. And then I'm just going to start stringing my beads on this twine. I also have a couple little spacer beads. So you're just going to string your polymer clay beads, the focals that we made, onto the 2 lengths of waxed linen twine. And there are my clay beads all strung on. Now, like I said, I showed you how to make this faux ceramic bead and this textured one. If you'd like to know how to make the swirly lentil bead, at my blog post I will have several links to online tutorials, including a very detailed one that I made at Craft Art EDU to learn how to do this. But you can learn the basics from any of the other tutorials. So then now we're going to take our other length of twine, the shorter one, fold that in half, and put that over the twine that's coming out of your last polymer clay bead, and just tie an overhand knot right there. You can be just a little distance away, not too far. And then you're going to gather all 4 of those together and tie a big overhand knot, including that join in there. And snug that right up next to the bead. The nice thing about waxed linen twine is that the wax really makes the knots stick. You don't have to worry about them coming undone. And there, now that's why I chose these black beads here, because I knew that this would sort of look like a black bead down here. And now we have our 4 strands of beads that we chose right at the beginning, and you're just going to go ahead and string those on the twine until you have the length you need for your bracelet. So here's the bracelet with the 4 strands of beads all on there. All you need to do is find your ring. Like I said, you can make one out of wire, you can find one. I think this was a part of a set that was spacer beads actually. And then you just tie it on there. You can tie them on individually if you want, but I thought it would look better to have them all in just one single knot. So I'm going to pull them all up so they're even. And then just pop them through. And then just slide it right down to the beads and give it a pull. And I have enough cord and enough space, so I'll probably give that one more tie just for security. So I'm just really giving this a nice good tug so that these are secure. And then rather than trimming these close, the wax will hold it in place, but I would feel better just having a little bit of extra length. And so what I'm going to do is grab some of my additional beads and pop them on and then just tie a little knot below them. And make dangles with these 4. Trim that and do that with the other 3, and that way you don't really have to worry about this coming apart, and you have a little bit of extra decoration. So I just want to give a shout out to one of my newest patrons, Cassandra Wood. Thank you so much, Cassandra, for your generous support and for believing in me and my work enough to be a patron. So if you're interested in the supplies I used, you can click on the little tag in the upper right of the video. It used to be an I for information. YouTube's changed it. But if you click on that, there's a link to my blog post. Every video I have a complete supply list and links to products. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and take a peek at my Patreon page for how you can get great rewards and help support these tutorials. Keep them free for everyone. So happy creating. Bye-bye.